So next up, podcast listeners, we have the dumbest bill in America. And do we have a lead up, Mr. Producer? Here it is.
Dum 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 dum.
And it's the dumbest bill in America, and it is a federal vaccine database. Yep, you heard that correctly. A federal vaccine database. Folks, it is actually a bill. It is real. Listen to this. In Breitbart, and we had the bill up too, so we're going to read parts of that as well. In Breitbart, exclusive, a tool to enforce Orwellian rules. 80 House Republicans helped pass a bill to fund a federal vaccination database. 80 House Republicans voted with Democrats on Tuesday to pass the Immunization Infrastructure Modernization Act, which, if passed by the Senate and signed into law, would fund a federal vaccination database. According to the bill, H.R. 550, the government would provide $400 million in taxpayer money to fund immunization system data modernization and expansion. Words directly pulled from the bill. A system otherwise defined as a, quote, confidential population-based computerized database that records immunizations, the doses administered by any healthcare provider to persons within any geographic area covered by that database. The text specifically outlines an expansion of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and public health department capabilities and the ability for the state and local health departments, as well as public and private healthcare providers, to share health data with the federal government. In a statement, the bill's main sponsor, Democrat Representative Ann Custer from New Hampshire, said the system would be used to remind patients when they are due for a recommended vaccine and identify areas with low vaccination rates to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines. Notably, the bill has 4 Republican co-sponsors: Representative Larry Buckson, Republican of Indiana; James Baird, Republican of Indiana; David McKinley, Republican of West Virginia; and Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania. Not one Democrat voted in opposition to the bill, but 80 Republicans voted for the bill. Representative Mary Miller, Republican of Illinois, who was one of the 130 Republicans to vote no, told Breitbart News exclusively on Wednesday that the legislation would enable the federal government to track unvaccinated Americans who will be targeted and be forced to comply with Biden's crazy global vaccination vision. Quote, these systems are designed to allow for the sharing of crucial information and maintenance of records. Do we really trust the government to protect our medical records? Miller said. The bill's author even bragged in her press release that these systems will help the government remind patients when they are due for a recommended vaccine and identify areas with low vaccination rates to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines. This was clearly a legislative tool to enforce vaccine mandates and force their Orwellian rules onto those who do not comply. Representative Brian Donalds, Republican of Florida, voted no on the bill, citing Democrats' habitual pattern of reckless and wasteful spending in an exclusive statement to Breitbart News. The congressman said the legislation only serves to expand the power of the federal government and trample individual rights. Well, podcast listeners, it's more than that. They're not just using this $400 million to expand the CDC and the NIH and give them more power. It's also for your state health departments and your local health departments. And its purpose is to provide and have a comprehensive vaccine database. For what purpose? Well, because they want to be able to notify you when you need your next vaccine. And if that isn't bad enough, we're going to read a Forbes article in a minute, which proves the point. But first up, I was watching Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo. She had Dr. Scott Atlas on, and this goes right to the vaccine database. And she's talking to Dr. Scott Atlas about, well, what's the deal with Pfizer petitioning to have all of the data sealed and hidden away concerning this Pfizer vaccine? We're going to talk about that in a minute, but you have to listen to this about a minute and 30 long. It's about a minute and 30 second long clip. Podcast listeners, this is some scary stuff. Ask yourself the question, why? We have that clip, and here it is.
Because today we have the FDA authorizing now booster shots for everybody. All adults. Pfizer and Moderna are going to make a combined $93 billion in sales on this in the coming years on vaccines. What is going on here? Is this about money? Your thoughts on the FDA asking a federal judge to give it 55 years to wait for all data, release final data on the Pfizer vaccine?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many problems
years.
with this. And the science, and on the science side alone, boosters to be, indicated for people who are, for example, low-income groups like children. Healthy children have extremely low risk from COVID, period. That's been known for more than a year and a half. To give people boosters, even vaccines with an experimental technology for a disease that they have almost no risk from for serious illness is simply contrary to the science. Boosters, there's no significant safety data on boosters. Zero. Okay, we have thousands of people, single-digit thousands in Israel, with 30 days of safety data. A vaccine normally takes 5 to 10 years to be approved for safety. And
right,
so this
which
kind
is
of
why I'm
boosters,
questioning.
I don't know.
It's 5 to 10 years, which is why I'm questioning 50.
Yeah, so that's why Maria Bartiromo, who I'll be frank with you, is never afraid to ask the tough questions. And I've seen a few of her shows, Sunday Morning Futures with Maria, where you try to get clips from her show because it's really in-depth stuff and really interesting stuff. And you try to get clips off of YouTube and they're not there. They're just gone, including the show itself. And this has been going on for a while. This we were able to find, and who knows how long it'll be up there. So it's Pfizer. Is it Pfizer that's asking or the FDA that's asking? Certainly Pfizer is asking the FDA, but I'm not sure if the FDA is going to say it's okay. Hopefully not. But Pfizer is asking the FDA for 55 years to wait for all the data to come in over a period of 55 years before they actually make their decision as to, whether this is a safe vaccine. I mean, are they out of their minds? I mean, this is the craziest stuff I've ever heard. It's frightening. And Maria Bartiromo is like the only person that's asking for it. And this is related, podcast listeners, because we're talking about the dumbest bill in America, which is basically setting us up for vaccine passports. It's not a vaccine passport bill, but it's a vaccine passport database that tracks who has the vaccine, where they live, what geographical areas have high vaccination rates and which geographical areas do not, and is going to notify you when you're ready to have your next vaccine. The health department is. And so in the Forbes magazine, proves my point, in Forbes magazine, digital vaccine passes will soon be in more than 30 states, says 30. Here's how that will make travel a lot easier. This is Forbes magazine. If COVID-19 has taught travelers anything over the past 2 years, it is that this pandemic is not going away anytime soon. Nonsense. Another reality, travelers are being asked more often to show proof of vaccination at different points along a trip, whether that is to board an international flight, dine at a particular restaurant, visit a certain museum, or attend a concert or play. This trend cannot be dismissed as merely a coastal phenomenon. Bindle, a health verification app that helps venues verify attendees' vaccine status, has hundreds of clients spanning more than 30 states, from blue strongholds like California and New York to red leaners like Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Missouri, and Georgia. In the past 4 months, Bindle has seen a 10x increase in inbound requests for our technology, says the company's CEO, Gus Warren. Well, obviously, the issue here is that Bindle is in business because what happens if someone fakes their vaccination status? And that's why Bindle has a business, right? They have a business because there is this thought process that with the current vaccination proof, which is primarily a piece of paper, that it could be faked, right, in order to get into a bar or a restaurant or whatever. Can you believe I'm even talking about this? Can you believe that's even like a conversation? Oh, you can't come in, sir, because you don't have your papers. It's crazy. And this bill, H.R. 550, is called the Immunization Infrastructure Modernization Act of 2021. And its whole purpose, as I said, is to set up this national database to track you as to whether you have the vaccination and whether you're going to continue to get boosters. So they're not done yet, folks. We're not talking about the government saying, we're done with you because you're vaccinated. Oh, no. We're not done with you forever because we're going to still make you get this vaccination again and again and again via a booster. And who knows what else they're going to add to that database, because once they have a database, they've got compliance. They've got compliance on all future diktats that come from Fauci, the CDC, the NIH, health departments, or from a very dictatorial president of the United States, like Joe Biden and the Democrats. And this is very scary stuff, podcast nerds. We have to fight back from this government collection of data. It's been something that I've been fighting back against for a long time. But this is a federally funded and enforced database at a time when we're fighting against mandates. So isn't that mutually exclusive? We're not supposed to have mandates. That's what the courts are telling us. But we're going to have a vaccine mandated database to make sure that you get your vaccination and to track you, including tracking you, I'm sure, eventually, like when you move. You know that's coming.